This video is brought to you in part by my sponsors. Card Conduit is the easiest way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether your collection is sorted or not, there's an option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% higher than just using one buy list, you can rest assured you get the best bang for your buck. And you can get further savings of 10% on your service fees by using my affiliate link down below or the promo code MTGMudsta. 401 Games is Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. With a huge selection of cards and sealed product, first-time buyers can save 5% off their first order by using the code MTGMudsta, and returning shoppers can also use the code GOBLINS5 to save 5% on orders of singles. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. You can use the promo code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order.
Alright, we're back. We're doing another game. We're doing it in front of the cameras. We got a different group of people who all have M names, as you're going to learn very quickly. Max, you won the die roll. Mika,
I'll take it.
Mika won the die roll. So start us off, Mika.
Hi folks, I'm Mika, and today I'll be playing King of the Oathbreakers. This is a white and black spirit tribal deck that tries to show off some really old cards to blink my own stuff in and out of phasing.
Max, what are you doing?
None of your business. Look elsewhere. I'm playing Raff, Capashen, a flashy Azorius deck. That was my second deck that I built, and I named this deck in response because I wasn't really interacting, so I'm hoping to stop every action, basically.
Mark, what are you doing?
My name is Mark. I'm playing Millicent, Restless Remnant, also Spirit Tribal. I'm hoping to make a bunch of spirits and smash face in the air.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know who I am, I don't know why you're on this channel, but I'm playing Evereth, Viceroy of Plunder, the Jumpstart commander that cares about treasures and sacrificing. It's Rakdos, it's good, it's fun, and we're going to punch faces, so let's get into it.
Mika wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws, plays a tapped Temple of Silence, scrying 1, and passing. Max draws and plays a Prairie Stream, which also comes in tapped. Not wanting to break from the mold, Mark plays a tapped Azorius Guildgate and passes. I draw, play a Swamp like the unique snowflake that I am, and pass turn. Mika's got a Baron Moor for turn, and ships it after that. Max has a Command Tower, and pays 2 for a Mind Stone. Mark draws, plays an island, and then casts Dorothea. He ships it after it resolves. My turn has a Blazemire Verge for turn, and I pay 2 for a Direfleet Hoarder. Mika's got a Swamp for turn, and he casts Necropotence. He puts 2 life into it, exiling his top 2 cards, and puts them to hand during his end step. Max draws, plays an island, and casts an Archmage Emeritus. Mark's got a Temple of Enlightenment coming in tapped and scrying 1. Going to combat, he swings Dorothea at Mika for 4, who takes the hit. Mark then sacrifices Dorothea to its own trigger and passes turn. I've got a Mountain for turn, and then pay 3 for Braids. Going to my end step, I sacrifice the Direfleet Hoarder, and since no one else sacrifices a creature, they each take 2, I draw 3 cards, and make a treasure token. Mika skips his draw step, and shocks in a Godless Shrine. He then pays 2 for a Selfless Spirit, and passes. Max draws, plays a Plains, and goes to combat. He swings the Archmage Emeritus at Mark for 2, and passes after it connects. Mark's got an island, and he casts a Spectral Shepherd. I draw, play a Mountain, and then cast Rev. I go to combat, swinging Braids at Mika, but he responds with a Swords to Plowshares and exiles my creature. I gain some life, and pass after that. Mika skips his draw again, and he casts King of the Oathbreakers in his main phase. He then pays 2 life into Necropotence, and gets the cards to his hand as he passes. Meanwhile, Max flashes in Raff Capashen during the end step. Max draws, goes to combat, and swings Raff at me for 3. His second main phase has an Azorius Chancery coming in tapped, and he bounces a Plains back to hand. Mark draws, plays a Myriad Landscape, and then disturbs Dorothea from his graveyard onto the Spectral Shepherd. Going to combat, Mark swings the Spectral Shepherd at Max, and sends the 4/4 token he makes at me. Max and I then take our hits, with Mark passing after that. I've got a Mountain for turn, and I go to combat. I swing Rev at Mika, giving itself Death Touch, and Mika trades with the Selfless Spirit. After combat, I cast a Pirate's Pillage, discarding a card, drawing 2, and making a treasure. Mika skips his draw once more and plays a tapped Snowfield Sinkhole. He then plays an Orzhov Signet, and he activates Necropotence again for 2. With the triggers on the stack, Max responds by flashing in a Crystal Skull, and Mika then passes, putting those cards to hand. Max draws and plays an island. He pokes Mark for 2 with his Archmage, and passes after that. Mark's turn has him playing a Plains, and he casts Donal. He then goes to combat, swinging the Spectral Sailor at me, and the 4/4 token that he makes at Max. Before damage, Max cracks his Mind Stone, drawing a card, but has no responses, and we take our hits. Mark then passes turn. I draw and play my own Mind Stone, and then play a Rogue's Passage. I finally cast Evereth and pass to Mika. Mika skips his draw and casts Cryptcast. Once more he pays 3 life into Necropotence, moves to his end step, and puts the cards to hand. Max just draws, plays a Plains, and passes turn since he has Flash anyway. Mark's turn has him casting a Soul Ring, and he plays a Sword of Hearth and Home. Max responds with a Negate to counter it, and draws a card from his Archmage trigger. Mark then plays a Skyclave Apparition. We mistakenly think that it has Flying, so he hits Raff and Necropotence as he makes a copy with Donal. He then moves to combat, and swings the Spectral Shepherd and the 4/4 token at Max. Max responds by flashing in a Windshaper Planetar, and redirects the 4/4 to me, and blocks the Shepherd with the Planetar. Mark's Shepherd then dies, and I take 4, and Mark passes. I draw and cast a Mayhem Devil, and sacrifice a treasure to Evereth. I then do 1 damage to the Cryptcast, and then rinse and repeat and put the trigger on the Cryptcast again. Mika responds with Embolden, and extorts it, and uses it to phase out his king and the Cryptcast. I respond by cracking my last treasure, and target the Cryptcast once more, killing it finally, but the king phases out. Going to combat, I swing Evereth at Mika for 4, in the air with lifelink, which he takes. In my post-combat main phase, I play Morbid Opportunist, and passed. Mika's commander phases in, and he makes a tap Spirit token, and then draws. He plays a Swamp, and he goes to combat, hitting me for 3 with the king. I take it, and Mika then overloads Dam, but holds priority, and sacrifices his Spirit token to Scapegoat, to phase out the king. I ping Mika for 1 with the Mayhem Devil from him sacrificing something, but the board wipe then resolves. Mika and Max then make their illusions from the Skyclave Apparitions, and Mika then passes turn. Max draws and plays a tapped Temple of Enlightenment, scrying 1 and passing. Mark draws and plays Pippin, Guard of the Citadel, and then activates his Myriad Landscape, sacrificing it for 2 plains. My turn has me drawing, playing a Swamp, and recasting Evereth. I then play a Viscera Seer and pass. The king phases back in and makes a tap Spirit token, and Mika then draws for turn. He plays a Swamp, and he goes to combat, hitting me for 3 with the Illusion. I take it, and Mika passes, with Max once more flashing out Raff Capashen during his end step. Max's turn has him playing a Razortide Bridge, which comes in tapped, and going to combat, he hits me for 3 with his commander, passing to Mark after that. Mark draws and plays a Vanquisher's Banner, naming Spirit, and then plays an Ethereal Investigator. He draws off the banner, and makes 3 clue tokens when it enters, passing after that. I've got a Carrion Feeder, and I then sacrifice the Carrion Feeder and Mind Stone to Evereth. I then cast a Waltz of Rage, having Evereth be my target, but Mika responds by casting D-Spark, and targets the king, phasing it out. Max also responds by casting a Basalt Monolith off the top, and then plays Avacyn. Mark also gives his Ethereal Investigator protection from creatures with Pippin. I then deal 4 to each creature, and exile my top card, which is Jury. I then pass, and during my end step, Mika splashes in a Celestial Crusader. The king phases back in with a tapped Spirit, and Mika draws. He then plays his own Skyclave Apparition, and exiles Raff Capashen and passes. Max's turn has him playing an island, and then casting a Consecrated Sphinx. Max goes to combat, and then hits me with Avacyn, passing after that. Mark draws for turn, and Max draws with him thanks to the Consecrated Sphinx, and please assume that he does for every other draw, since I don't want to have to keep repeating this. And cracks a clue to draw again, and make a spirit token from his Investigator. He then plays Millicent, and passes. I draw and play a mountain. I then cast Jury from Exile. I then use my Rogue's Passage to make Evereth unblockable, and going to combat, I hit Max for 4, and pass turn. Mika's turn has him playing a Dust Animist, which enters with 2+1/+1 counters and lifelink. Going to combat, Mika hits me for 2 with the Celestial Crusader, and then passes. During his end step, Max untaps the Basalt Monolith. Max draws and plays an island, and then casts a Stinging Lionfish. He then plays Thran Dynamo off the top, and then follows up with a Gilded Lotus. Going to combat, Max hits me with Avacyn again, and passes after that. Mark draws and plays a Mirror Hall Mimic, and while it's on the stack, Max responds by casting Teferi's Protection, and untaps a Monolith with a Lionfish, and then phases out. Mark then has the Mimic enter as a copy of the King of the Oathbreakers, since Avacyn is unavailable. He then plays Breath of the Sleepless, and passes. I draw for turn, playing a Solemn Simulacrum, and going to find a tap swamp. I then sacrifice the Solemn to Evereth, drawing a card and pumping her, and follow up with an Ingenious Artificer and pass to Mika. Mika's turn has him drawing and going to combat. He swings a Dust Animus at Mark, who chumps with a Mirror Hall Mimic. Mika then plays a Phantom General and passes. Max phases back in and casts 100,000 arrows, drawing only a single card from Mika's tapped creature. He then casts Search for Glory and goes to find Emery. Max follows up by casting Emery, milling 4, and then cycles a Shark Typhoon for 1. Max then casts a Kibira Takedown to take down Evereth, and he goes to combat. He swings Avacyn at me, and the Consecrated Sphinx at Mika. I can't block, and die, while Mika takes the 4. Max then plays an Urza's Saga as his land for turn, and passes to Mark. Mark draws and disturbs the Mirror Hall Mimic, but Max counters it with Dovin's Veto. Mark then plays an Empyrean Eagle, and then an island for turn, and goes to combat. He swings everything at Max, and before moving to blocks, Max responds by casting an Unbettered Tine, and Gisela the Broken Blade. Max then blocks Millicent with Avacyn, a Spirit with Gisela, and the Investigator with his Shark. Max then takes a total of 4, and Mark passes after that. Mika draws and plays Anduril, and Max responds by countering it with a Spell Swindle. Going to combat, Mika swings all of his flyers at Max. And Max untaps the Consecrated Sphinx with his Unbettered Tine, and then blocks everything. Mika then flashes back Embolden on all 4 of his attackers, phasing them out, and passing. Max draws and adds a lore counter to the Urza's Saga, and then casts a Grafted Exoskeleton. He moves it onto Avacyn, and he goes to combat. He swings Avacyn at Mika for 10 Infect, and before damage, Mika casts an Angel's Grace in response, but still takes the 10 poison. Max then plays a Port Town, revealing a Plains, and then casts a Mirror Maid to copy the Unbettered Tine. After that, Max passes, and Mika dies once we move to Mark's turn. Mark draws and plays a Drogskull Reinforcements, drawing off the banner and making another Spirit, and then recasts Millicent. But Max responds with an Insidious Will to counter it. Max also gets to tap the Ethereal Investigator with the Lionfish, and Mark decides not to attack. Mark declares he'll move to his end step, with Max attempting to flash in a Blightsteel Colossus, but Mark counters it with an Arcane Denial. Max also activates Urza's Saga to make a Construct token, and then we move to Max's turn. Max draws 2 in his upkeep from the Arcane Denial while Mark draws 1, and Max draws for turn. Max then floats on of Urza's Saga, and then sacrifices it after the last lore counter goes onto it to go and find Soul Ring. He then casts Omniscience. Max then plays an island for turn, and recasts the Blightsteel Colossus for free from his hand. and Mark cracks a clue token in response. The Colossus then resolves, and Max then casts a Colossus of Akros, and then makes it monstrous. He plays a Lightning Greaves, and then moves it onto the Blightsteel Colossus. Max then casts a Bruna the Fading Light, and brings back the Windshaper Planetar. He continues with a Teferi who slows the sunset, and then uses it to untap the Gilded Lotus and gain 2. Max then plays another Colossus with a Darksteel Colossus, and then casts Urza, Lord Protector. He then moves to combat and swings everything at Mark. Mark chumps everything but the Sphinx, taking 6 damage and 7 total poison damage. Max then passes, and during his end step, he melds his 2 legendary angels to make Brizella. Mark draws for turn, but with nothing to stop it, knows when he's beat and scoops it up.
Even this is like a decent board state.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. So Max, how did you won? Tell us what you thought.
I think this is gross. A Robocop, an indestructible board, a 2020 trample, like it's a 2-card, 1 card, like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think you won. I mean, as soon as you flipped the merge card, it was over.
Yeah. But it was slow value, and then just cashing out on the.
I mean, hitting the Avacyn is huge.
Yeah.
But yeah. Mark, what did you think your deck did?
I think it did okay. It did what I kind of wanted it to do, but not. I missed a couple land drops there, so it was a little bit slow starting. But I got a couple big, heavy spirits out there, so
I think
decently happy.
Without the Avacyn, I mean, like I think you had the most threatening board.
Tried to copy it a few times
because your spirits took us 4/4s.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get to do very much. A lot of the early treasure stuff got shut off, and then I just kind of pitted a little bit, and I used the one board wipe I had to very, very little effect, and then I died.
It powered him up more than
Yeah, it helped. It helped Max. So that's not what you want to do with your.
Well, I got excessively lucky pulling that from the top after putting something else. Like it was the second from the top when you did your board wipes.
Yeah. Mika?
Likewise, the deck did mostly what it wanted to. It got to play some old cards, it got to bounce some spirits around, phase stuff out, and I think the crux of this game really was the most unfortunate timing on the D-Spark.
Yeah.
Where it was just a matter of priority ordered that maybe I used it to try and save my board instead of getting rid of the Avacyn, and the game went downhill from there. So, no, otherwise, can't complain. Definitely a weaker deck, the Spirit one, but still fun to bring out every so often.
Cool. See you in the next one.
This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.